Welcome to this edition of The District. I am Joan Garner, your Fulton County Commissioner for District 6. Stephanie Flowers, Executive Committee Chair of the Consumer Advocacy Group, who sits on the Relationship Building Action Team for the Pittsburgh community. Monique Eppinger, the former Program Associate of the Consumer Advocacy Group, and Dr. Tracy Owens, Adjunct Professor at Morehouse and Research Consultant, and Consumer Advocacy Group member on the Customer Satisfaction Investigations Action Team, will join us today to tell us about the Consumer Advocacy Group and the Customer Satisfaction Network. Later in the show, we will be joined by Maya Owens, a 6th grade student at the DeKalb Elementary School of the Arts, an honorary Consumer Advocacy Group member, and Deborah Nicholson, the senior consultant on the National Technical Assistance Team at the Center for the Study of Social Policy. They will share their experience with the Consumer Advocacy Group and the Customer Satisfaction Network. We have a great show planned. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the District. We have a great show planned for you today. I am Joan Garner, your Fulton County Commissioner for District 6. Joining us today is Stephanie Flowers, the Executive Committee Chair of the Consumer Advocacy Group, who sits on the Relationship Building Action Team for the Pittsburgh community. Also joining us is Monique Eppinger, the former Program Associate of the Consumer Advocacy Group, and Dr. Tracy Owens, Adjunct Professor at Morehouse and Research Consultant, who is a Consumer Advocacy Group member on the Customer Satisfaction Investigations Action Team. They are here to share with us information about the Consumer Satisfaction Network and the Consumer Advocacy Group. Stephanie, Monique, and Dr. Owens, welcome to the District. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
So Stephanie, let's start with this conversation with you. Would you please tell our viewers what is the Customer Satisfaction Network? And that's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, the Customer Satisfaction Network is really an approach that's used by corporate businesses to improve the quality of services within their organizations. But on the residence level, in NPUV, Neighborhood Planning Unit V, the Consumer Advocacy Group provides leadership to establish the Customer Satisfaction Network. The goal of the network is to build and sustain critical mission partners, inform, engage, and empower residents that are equipped to take action in improving the access of quality goods and services and supports in their communities.
So tell us, why adopt a consumer focus for engaging the residents?
Because we know that all consumers have the rights, are entitled to be treated with dignity and respect. However, we know that all citizens are not receiving those services. So that's why it's important that we adopt the consumer focus.
And so how is the network organized?
First, it's made up of residents of Neighborhood Planning Unit B, X, and Y, ages 13 and older. They're informed, engaged residents that are empowered. And then we have the Consumer Advocacy Group, which is the governing body for the Customer Satisfaction Network. And the Consumer Advocacy Group really identifies quality and bring in the education around what our service target areas. And then we have the network. We go back out into the network, and the network begin to take action on the services. And the third one we have is the providers. These providers are what we call our willing providers, and we go out and to try to improve quality services within those organizations and service areas.
That's great, and that leads me to my next question. So why did you choose these particular neighborhoods?
We chose these particular neighborhoods because of past work that had been done in the communities, and these residents were involved in a class earlier on, and as well as the Neighborhood Data Advisory Group. And so we brought all of those groups was working on the quality, so we brought those groups back together to see how do we improve the quality services that was in our community.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. So Monique, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, as the former program associate at the Consumer Advocacy Group, please tell our viewers about the Services Network members asked why. Please tell our viewers about the services that the network members asked the Consumer Advocacy Group to conduct in terms of their quality investigations.
Well, the conversation started in 2008, and residents were asked to sit down and think about what are some of the things that are important for you to thrive in your community and to live a healthy quality of life. And so they came up with 3 areas that they felt were most important to them. The first being the provision of nutritional goods and services. And this, of course, means how satisfied are you with your grocery stores? And so the Consumer Advocacy Group designed surveys to collect data about where do people shop, what do they buy, what is the quality of their shopping experience, and how much do they spend when they go to the grocery stores, because pricing is very important during these economic times. And so that's one of the service target areas that we focus on. A second thing was the educational services that occur in their neighborhoods. So looking at all of the early learning centers, the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. How satisfied are you with those services based upon what was set forth by the Georgia Department of Education? And so we created a survey based upon the keys of quality education. And one of those standards was that schools are involved in their child's learning through the community, through parents, through community-based organizations. How do we reinforce this level of communication between all of those groups to make sure that the child has a greater condition of learning? And so the last aspect of our service target areas is neighborhood completeness. And this focuses on what is available in our neighborhoods, where are the gaps, do we have enough park space, do we have enough libraries, what do we do to advocate for change in our communities if there are things that are missing.
So Monique, that's quite interesting. What were some of the findings?
So as of 2012, we had actually collected 400 surveys based upon nutrition alone. And we found that most residents were traveling further than 3 miles to get to a nearest grocery store to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables that they need. We also found that 71% of those people have to travel long distances. So this implies that they live in a food desert, and that's something that we need to be concerned about, because we want to make sure that parents and their children have access to those fresh fruits and vegetables. Some of the other findings included that out of the top 5 grocery stores where residents shop, Kroger was actually 3 of the top 5, with the metropolitan location being the most popular one. And so we wanted to focus on that grocery store in particular to make sure that they're providing the services and the quality of services that residents expect as consumers.
And I heard you say something, and I want to ask you very quickly. You used the word food desert. Could you define that for us?
Food desert is an area that doesn't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables based upon the distance that it would take for one to travel to the grocery store.
Great, thank you. Dr. Owens, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, would you please tell our viewers what are your next steps with each of the service target areas?
Okay, certainly. It's interesting, though, that the next steps always include the first steps. So we will always be engaging residents in trying to expand our customer satisfaction network. And we do that through data collection as well as education and empowering residents with more information. We also want to always engage and expand our network of willing providers, the willing service providers in those neighborhoods. So in terms of the education service target area, what we're doing is continuing assisting the co-design team at Stanton Elementary as well as Parks Elementary. These parents, staff, teachers, principals, and families and community members are working to improve those the quality of the services or the education that the children are receiving that Ms. Eppinger talked about. We also are continuing our early learning customer satisfaction investigation, where we're surveying parents and assessing the quality of the daycare centers that they frequent. And then with the neighborhood completeness, we are about to launch a product, an evaluation tool. It's going to be a neighborhood planning guide, and we'll use that planning guide. Well, residents and community organizations can use that planning guide to do a comparative analysis of what a healthy community is and or a healthy community looks like and what's in their community. So we're really excited about launching that evaluation tool. And lastly, our main customer satisfaction investigation has been the nutritional services. So we're launching an advocacy campaign with Kroger, as well as establishing a campaign around urban gardening.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. Stephanie, as we close this interview, could you tell our viewers how they can learn more about Consumer Advocacy Group?
Monique, can you help with the Facebook page? What is the Facebook page? I can't remember.
Yes, so they can reach us via facebook.com/CAG Atlanta.
Great. So Monique, Stephanie, and Dr. Owens, thank you so much for joining us today on the district. We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
the information.
Thank you.
When we return, Stephanie Flowers, the Executive Committee Chair for the Consumer Advocacy Group, will be joined by Maya Owens, a 6th grade student at the DeKalb Elementary School of the Arts, an honorary Consumer Advocacy Group member. Also joining us after the break is Deborah Nicholson, the Senior Consultant for the National Technical Assistance Team at the Center for the Study of Social Policy. They will share their experience with the Consumer Satisfaction Network and the Consumer Advocacy Group. You are watching The District. Stay tuned, there's more to come. Welcome back to the district, everyone. I am Joan Garner, your Fulton County Commissioner for District 6. If you just tuned into the show, we had a great conversation with Stephanie Flowers, the Executive Committee Chair of the Consumer Advocacy Group, Monique Eppinger, former Program Associate of the Consumer Advocacy Group, and Dr. Tracy Owens, Adjunct Professor at Morehouse and Research Consultant, who is a Consumer Advocacy Group member on the Customer Satisfaction Investigations Action Team. They shared with us their involvement with the Consumer Advocacy Group, which is a group of residents from Neighborhood Planning Unit V, X, and Y who believe in establishing an authentic demand for quality and equity in the provision of services, products, goods, and support in their community. Joining Stephanie Owens is Maya Owens, a 6th grade student at the DeKalb Elementary School of the Arts, an honorary Consumer Advocacy Group member, and Deborah Nicholson, the Senior Consultant for the National Technical Assistance Team at the Center for the Study of Social Policy. Stephanie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Maya, welcome. And Deborah, welcome. Thank you all for joining me today. Maya, as the daughter of my guest, Dr. Tracy Owens, tell our viewers, why did you get involved in this process?
Well, I've been attending the meetings with my mom, and after a few meetings, I was asking my mom what they would do in there, and then I remembered that I had a social science fair project due, so I chose to do my project on that.
Well, tell us about the research project that you conducted, and how did you do it?
I created a survey for it, asking people what type of fast food restaurants they have in their neighborhood and how often they go to them, and if they have big or small grocery stores.
And so, Maya, tell us, what did you find? What were some of your findings?
I found out that they have lots of fast food restaurants in their in their community, but they also have large grocery stores too.
Okay, so what were the results of your work?
The results were that parents realize that they go out more than they're supposed to, and that they do not live in a food desert. They have healthy communities.
Well, thank you so much for doing that research. That's quite impressive. Thank you. So, Stephanie, would you please share with us what would you envision for this network in the future, let's say 5 years from now?
I would envision that in our nutritional goods and services area that we have a partnership with the national grocery store that's located. It's not in our community, but most of our residents go to that grocery store to shop. So we want to get a partnership with them that they would take our information and use it to improve the services in the community. As well as we would like to have our framework adopted across Fulton County. We want to implement many CAGs within each community as well, and to be sustained, beginning to do fundraising so that we can spread this work across not only Atlanta but across other cities. So that's the envision for the CAG.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Please explain to us what role the Consumer Satisfaction Network can play in improving the quality of the community life of residents, families, and service providers.
Well, the beauty of this model is that it provides a way for everybody to be engaged in quality and community. So with residents, it gives them a voice, and it gives them the knowledge to come to the table with their own knowledge, their own research. And I found in this, particularly in this work in Atlanta, which is the pilot site for it at the resident level, is that once residents get that knowledge, you can't take it from them, and they look at services in an entirely different way. Now we have a way of looking at and what I call organizing our anger with inequity and poor quality. Now we have a way to organize it, be able to do our own research, and then be able to engage on an equal level with service providers. For service providers, it provides an opportunity to engage their consumers and really get that authentic demand that you talked about earlier that improves the quality of their services, but also it gives them the opportunity to provide what people need, not what they think people need, and also engage residents in making those services better. And so if we can get those two things going, then families win, residents win, providers win.
I really like that, organizing our anger. I like that. So I'm sure that there are many challenges and opportunities in this work. Could you discuss those for us?
Yeah, we'll start with the hard stuff first,
Right.
the challenges. One is that this is an all-volunteer organization, and they've been doing this for the past 4 years, you know, out of the time and the commitment to what they believe in the work. So part of the challenge is finding the kind of funding to help sustain the work so that they're kind of a staff person. We've been looking at and working with one of the community partners, Pittsburgh Community Improvement Association. And so we need kind of an infrastructure. Once we kind of get that settled, we believe we can go deeper into the work into each of the MPUs. The opportunity, though, is again this vigorous engagement of residents and a way in which residents can provide input along a continuum. They can just fill out a survey or they can come be a member of the CAG, but their voices will be heard. And then that collective voice then gives everybody, I guess I want to say, the support to advocate for what's right in quality and equity.
And challenge and opportunities?
That is the opportunity that we can get folks
Yes.
together. And I think it provides that kind of equal status partnership
Yes.
with providers, families, and residents can be key to true sustaining community transformation.
Yes, thank you so much. Stephanie, as we wrap this part of the interview up, could you tell our viewers and residents and stakeholders how they might get involved in this network?
Well, we have 3 layers that they can come in and get involved on. We know that a lot of residents don't want to be in the meetings, in the day-to-day meetings and planning and all. So we have what you call the CSI, the Customer Satisfaction Investigation Team. That's the team where you can go out and do the surveys and the secret shopping and ask the question, the tough questions as we call them. And then we have the next group, which is the Consumer Advocacy Group, which is the governing body that do a little bit more work and do more of the implementing and the education and getting the people to come in and talk. And then we have the big Customer Satisfaction Network. That network, you can come in to just hear the information, what we found, get the updates, learn the data, and then be able to do surveys, or if you want to do something else, do outreach or what have you. But there's 3 tiers for them to get involved in.
Well, thank you so much. Stephanie, thank you.
you.
Deborah, thank you.
Thank you.
And Miss Maya, thank you for your involvement. This has been great information to share with our residents today. When we return, I will share my closing thoughts. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the district. Today, Stephanie Flowers, Executive Committee Chair of the Consumer Advocacy Group, who sits on the Relationship Building Action Team for the Pittsburgh community, Monique Eppinger, the former Program Associate of the Consumer Advocacy Group, and Dr. Tracy Owens, Adjunct Professor at Morehouse and Research Consultant and Consumer Advocacy Group member, joined us today to tell us about the Consumer Advocacy Group and the Customer Satisfaction Network. We also heard from Maya Owens, a 6th grade student at the DeKalb Elementary School of the Arts and honorary Consumer Advocacy Group member, about the effect the Consumer Advocacy Group had on her. Last of all, Deborah Nicholson, the senior consultant on the National Technical Assistance Team at the Center for the Study of Social Policy, discussed the Consumer Satisfaction Network's role in improving the quality of community life of residents, families, and service providers. The Consumer Advocacy Group has taken a consumer approach to test for customer satisfaction in their neighborhoods, which is a group of residents from Neighborhood Planning Unit V, X, and Y. Their target areas are educational, K through 12, and early learning, nutritional services, local grocery stores, and neighborhood gardens, and neighborhood completeness. As informed, educated, and engaged parents and community leaders, they took an active role in challenging their willing service providers to consistently provide equitable goods, services, and support in their neighborhoods. The residents managed their own consumer research, education, and advocacy initiative in an effort to establish an effective feedback loop among residents, CAG members, and willing service providers. They worked toward forming supportive partnerships with providers such as surrounding schools and grocery stores. The Consumer Advocacy Group understands that quality is a human right. I want to thank my guests for the information and education they provided us today. And thank you for joining us on The District. That's our show for today. Feel free to contact my District 6 office anytime by calling us at 404-612-8226. You can email us at district6@fultoncountyga.gov. Tweet with us at ComJoanGarner, and of course, friend us on Facebook. Until we meet again, I'm your District 6 Fulton County Commissioner, Joan Garner. Thanks for watching The District.